It's the Just Okay Sports Podcast.
Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. That is Just Oklahoma Sports Podcast. I'm one of your village idiots, Daryl, and I am flying solo tonight as we begin to finally get into college football season. Fall camp has been open for 8-9 practices now. We've had a major scrimmage today. We had a light scrimmage on Thursday, so plenty to get into with all of that stuff. But man, if you're new here, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We, again, as we always say, this will always be a free podcast, always be a free YouTube channel. So just please subscribe, like, do all those things to help us out in that way. We are not reporters or media members. We are just fans giving our opinion. When we do feel like we have some kind of scoop or info or whatever, we will share it to you, give it. But other than that, it's really just our assessment of games, our breakdown of what we think we're going to see from the opponents, and what things that we are hearing out of fall camp as well. And so let's jump to it. We have to start at the top of this particular podcast talking about fall camp with acknowledging that in the scrimmage today, it's being widely reported that Jake Michaela did go down with an injury. It does seem as though that is a knee injury. According to everyone, there has not been any official diagnosis yet, but it all appears to be pointing towards an ACL injury. Now, may not be. We may get lucky and it's something else. Of course, no one wants to report that or say that prior to an MRI. But just based on the way that the injury happened, based on some of the tests and things that trainers are able to do, that seems to be what it is. But let's cross our fingers and hope that that's incorrect and that it's, strained meniscus or something like that, which really can be something that you can bounce back from in, 6 to 8 weeks, somewhere in there, which would, put Michaela back, about mid-season. And so, prayers up for Jake. I know he's worked extremely hard. I know last year, injury-wise, was really hard on him, so I hate this for him. Just as an individual and as a player, it sucks. And I'm really, really sad to hear the news, but it is football and it happens. And so the Sooners do have to figure out how to move ahead and get going with things. So I did just want to go ahead and put that out there as far as fall camp notes go as we're moving forward. But thanks to some of our friends in the Discord, Mo, you've been pushing us to get things going, despite the fact, again, as we said on our Russ retirement, our video quality is worse than it's ever been. We're working to rectify that. We've got our internet fixed. We've got some of those kinds of things fixed. And so we're hoping to upgrade some of these things, make it look a little better, a little cleaner for those of you that do watch on YouTube. For those of you that listen on the audio, kind of is what it is, but don't think it's been too bad the last few years. And so we'll hopefully keep that at a quality state. But all that to say, Mo not only has been pushing us to get things going again, but he's also sent in some questions for us to kind of kick off this fall podcast. So we're going to use this, and then we'll be releasing some more through the week this week. We're going to try to have more podcasts each week. Now, hopefully we can do those, record them on the day and put them out, but most likely they'll be somewhere in the week when Troy and I, or Troy and Jared can get together, or, all three of us can. We'll try to get a couple knocked out that are more in that 20 to 30 minute window, but then we'll release them through the week to kind of give you content throughout the week rather than one big log hour and 20 minute podcast like we normally do. But we'll see how that goes with Troy, because as you know, he loves to ruin the flow. But let's get to it. Mo had a couple different questions for us. Question one: what is the one thing you hope to be better to improve this team on the offense and the defense this year? And this is a great question. Offense, I think, is pretty easy for me. I just think the offensive line in general. I know a lot of people are going to say tight end, and I get that, and I understand the tight end adds a lot, but there are plenty of teams around the country that do not have quality tight ends that still have very good offenses, and it all circles around a good offensive line. The news of Jake Michaela has me worried about that statement. Now, literally 5 hours ago, if you'd asked me, I mean, I had it written down 2 days ago. The offensive line being better is what's going to make the offense better. I'm not worried about John Mateer when he's healthy. I'm not worried about him when he's 100%. I don't think that he's going to be the greatest quarterback in the country, but he is more than good enough and more of a gamer enough to do just fine, and will get things rolling just fine. The question is going to be, can the offensive line get pushed? And I feel like this unit, with another year of experience, they're not 18 and 19 anymore. They're 19 and 20 years old. They've seen a lot. They've experienced a lot. And hopefully you're not dealing with high ankle sprains across the entire offensive line like we were last year. And if you could do that, it still will be better. With the reports about Noah Best and how well he's playing, some of the things that Jim Nagy has said about Caleb Nita, I feel like we'll survive Michaela being gone. But remember, Jim Nagy also stated about Jake Michaela that he thought he could be maybe the best center in the country this year. So it's not a small loss for however long it is. But again, I think the O line is the thing that will make this team better across the board offensively. Defensively, I'm going to go to kind of a strange spot, but I believe it's the secondary. I believe the secondary is going to be as good as we've seen in a long, long time. It was really funny. I was listening to one of the radio stations. I don't remember which one, local radio. I believe it was yesterday. And, they were going, what are you going to get out of Reggie Powers? And I was like, do y'all remember how well Reggie Powers was playing the second half of the year last year? I mean, the guy was incredible when he was on the field last year. No concern about him. I don't care if you play him at Cheetah. I don't care if you play him at one of the back state. It does not matter. He's going to ball. Peyton Bowen started to ball. Everybody in the OU fan base believes in Michael Boganowski. I believe more so right now as far as a complete safety in a Marion Robinson. But I still think between those three that you have headhunters, ball hawks, and good football players through all three of those. So you have four guys that you can kind of move and mix and match all through there. And then you add Cortland Guillory and Eli Bowen, who I still believe that Eli Bowen is one of the better corners in the country. Unfortunately, no one's ever going to see it that way because of his size. He's just not 6 foot tall, and they're always going to hold it against him. But the dude can flat cover, and the dude can flat play. And Cortland Guillory showed he was, and if he comes back even 10% better than he was last year, the secondary is going to be unbelievable. And then you add on to that, right? The things that you're hearing about Tristan Haynes, the things that you are hearing about Amarian Robinson and even Bo Jandro, just some of the things like that that are coming out of camp. Just sounds really, really, really good. I think Jacoby Johnson's more than serviceable. He's not my favorite corner in the rotation, but he could prove me wrong this year. Athletically and size-wise, he's a freak. And if Lamar Morgan can really help him take another step, that four-man rotation at corner is unreal. You got a four-man rotation at safety that's unreal. I believe the secondary is going to really push things through. Number two, what is the one thing that you are worried about that will affect how we finish this year on offense and on defense? Let me start on defense because I know everybody is singing the praises of this defense. And look, I have no questions about our starting 11, and I think it's one of the best starting 11s we have seen in Oklahoma maybe in 20 years. They are very, very good through that first 11. My question is that interior defensive line, second unit. I think people are completely sleeping on the reality that Dominic Williams, Grayson Halton, David Stone, Jaden Jackson, that trio of four were really four starters. You pick any two out of that four. Send them to any team you want in the SEC. And they are heavy in the rotation or they're starting. And everybody's just kind of pretending, well, we got Jaden and we got Dave. What made this team great last year was the depth of the defensive line. And them being able to play with their hair on fire, knowing that they were going to get a whole series off the next time, and then be able to go again. And so in the fourth quarter, that's why this defense never fell off. Even when the offense was terrible last year, this defense still played at such a high level, not because it was just a great defense. It was because, especially across the D-line, You were 2 to 2.5 deep, and especially on the interior. I mean, guys, you even rolled in Marcus Strong last year, who made plays, and right now, I think David Stone and Jaden Jackson maybe are two of the best in the entire conference. After that, and look, everybody just wants to. I've heard some people go, it's not that they're worried about who's in the room or not. Yes, they are. The signing of Salee from Arkansas through the portal because he gets his fifth year now is absolutely a sign that they are not sure what they have in those backups. And you want to go, well, he's a guy who's played in the SEC, and so yeah, okay. But if you really thought that Trent Wilson, if you really thought Nigel Smith was the real deal, and you had no questions about whether or not that they could play, if you had no question of Bishop Thomas could play in this conference, that what you saw in fall camp made you go, okay, we're good. You're not bringing this guy in. You're not bringing him in. They're bringing him in because he has SEC experience and they know he can play at an SEC level. And so he's the one guy right now that they probably believe can spell Jaden Jackson and David Stone for sure. That D line doesn't figure it out. There's going to be a problem. And what's going on there, and what's happening there. The one thing that I'm worried about that could affect how the offense goes this year, I'm going to come back to it again, just offensive line. Again, tackles thin. And now you lose Michaela, so that shortens up the amount of backups you had, right? And so, but if a tackle goes down, now you're moving Foje, which now means you got to put Best in. So one more injury, and you're done with guys that you feel really comfortable that can play. I think that this staff really believes in Caleb Nita. I believe that they really believe in Heath Ozada. I think that they really believe in Noah Best, okay, as your backups. And then the Fasusi, EPL, Michaela, Foje, Omarion, all right? Or Emarion, Harrison. So you already got one down. That leaves seven. You get one more, you're starting to really mix and match in a way where it puts you in trouble. And especially if a tackle goes down. That cannot happen for this team this year. They're just not ready to handle that whatsoever. What is the most important change that can be or has been made during the offseason, in your opinion? It's a great question. Um, Man, okay. Biggest change on the defense. Um, hmm. That one's tough. I think the biggest change that we're going to see on defense is just the speed at linebacker. How about that? Um, I really liked Lewis Carter, and not to say that Lewis Carter can't run, but he was smaller in size and not necessarily the fastest guy on planet Earth. Kobe McKenzie is an absolute headhunter, but he wasn't the fastest of foot guy, and everybody knows that. But from everything that you're hearing, from testing numbers and all those kinds of things, Cole Sullivan can run. Kip Lewis can run. Owen Heineke can run. James Nesta can run. Marcus James can run. And so I would say just the speed at linebacker. We might be a little bit smaller with Kip and Owen, but I do think that the speed there is going to be really, really big for us this season. But here's the one. Here's the biggest change. It's going to impact this team this year. It's your new running backs coach. I think one of the biggest changes in the offseason was that. And I know everybody's going to go, are you kidding me? What about Joe John Finley to Jason Witten? I get it. And I love Jason Witten. He obviously has already completely changed the room just from a recruiting standpoint. I get it. Okay. But here's the deal. We've never seen Jason Witten coach in college. We just haven't. Dylan McCullough has coached some of the best in college football over and over and over again. He has recruited some of the best over and over and over. He has been hired to the NFL and succeeded in the NFL. Unfortunately, he was with an organization that doesn't have its stuff together in the Raiders, but he did help Ashton Genty get better in the NFL. So I just think Dylan McCullough's it. Not only that, the thing that has been missing at Oklahoma for several years now on the offensive side has been a run game. And if you look, I love DeMarco from a what he did for OU and all those things. I think he was really hard on his guys. I think he was really hard on his staff. And I think that that made it really hard to get along with him. I think he was a really good recruiter, but I think that he was one of those guys that coached so hard that I don't know that he did great with the relationship piece. BV coaches you hard, but he also works really hard at relationships. He works really hard at getting to know you. He works really hard to put himself in a position to let you know that he loves you and cares for you in a way that allows him to coach hard. I don't know that DeMarco did that. And let's be honest, Eric Gray, is that the one guy that we saw drastic improvement through DeMarco Murray? I mean, I think with Gavin Sawchuk, you saw a regression. Everybody's going to say, well, injury, injury, injury. Okay, but still, he ended the year with like 5 straight 100-yard games and then never looked like that guy ever again, even when healthy. Javante Barnes comes in as a freshman. Everybody's like, that dude's got juice. He's got this, he's got that. And he went down and down and down. And he had a lot of injuries too, but still down and down and down and down. Taylor Tatum, down and down and down and down and down. He's not even playing football anymore. And so you can either chalk that up to the recruiting rankings looked really good, but he didn't know how to evaluate. But either way, he did not develop talent. And already you're hearing things that it's like, yes, how is this the first time we're hearing this? The statement the other day, Dylan McCullough said at the opening of camp, look, guys, the goal at running back is that you always get 3 yards beyond contact. And you should feel disrespected and embarrassed as a running back if the offensive line blocks 5 yards and that's all you get. If they block for 1 yard and that's all you get, that should be an embarrassment to you. That should be absolute failure to you. We always get a minimum of 3 yards past contact. I love it. I love everything about it. And I think already some of the things that you're seeing, even going back to the spring game, the vision that you saw through every running back that was available to play, different, better, improved, seeing the holes, making the cuts, was really, really good. And some of the drills, you even see them allowing them to get in practice. Just him really working on how to see where things are and go to where space is. I just don't think we saw that with DeMarco. And again, I think the thing is the defense is going to be fine. I think the defense takes a small step back this year just because of the depth. I don't think they are as deep across the board, and especially in the defensive line. And that is where it all begins. And I think that's going to cause his defense to step back just a little bit. But I think the offense, we should see an increase. I think that should take a step forward this year. Now, those should kind of balance themselves out, right? And the thing that's going to make the offense move forward is the run game. And so I think that Dylan McCullough is the biggest thing that we have brought in the offseason to get things going. Who is the most crucial player is the last question from Mo on each side of the ball. Most crucial player. Wow. I mean, it's hard to say on offense that it's not John Mateer. And so yeah, I think it is John Mateer. I think John Mateer has to obviously get better with his decision making. I said it last year, I'm going to say it again, and I know everybody talk about it. His arm angle doesn't matter. Okay, arm angle or not, I don't really care. But the thing that John Mateer must get better at, and maybe it was the thumb last year, but he has to quit throwing deep balls that are on ropes. And he has to learn how to throw a trash can ball, which if you don't know what I mean, high arc and drop it into the basket. You cannot get a ball from 50 yards away on a rope into a trash can. It's nearly impossible. He has got to learn how to throw it over the top and drop it in to give his receivers chances on deep balls. Because even when a guy's got separation and you throw the rope, A long corner is able to put their arm into that path and tip the ball away or to block the line of sight. But when you bring it up and over and the receiver can watch it down and in, now that length does not get in the way as much, especially when you've created separation. He's got to get that better. He's got to get his decision making better. And then last, I would say he's got to learn how to protect himself better. He does not need to be the guy that is going to get in 3 yards past contact. That's not his job. His job is to get what is there and get his butt down and keep himself healthy so that he can play well through the rest of the season. On the defensive side of the ball, I really believe that the most crucial to this team is probably, I'm going to say Nigel Smith, believe it or not. Nigel Smith has all the tools and length and size, those things, to be a very effective defensive tackle. I know he's still new to the position. I know he's still learning it, but he has to come on. With us signing Salih out of the portal, you've got a third tackle that you can put out there and know that they're not just going to get abused. And that's great. You need another one. And I haven't heard anything just outstanding about Trent Wilson. I haven't heard anything just outstanding about Bishop Thomas. And honestly, I haven't heard consistent outstanding from Nigel in fall camp. We heard some really good things in the spring. I need to start hearing that Nigel Smith is taking the step of separating himself as that next guy. The guy that is going from a 2 to a 1. And if he can do that, and now you've got a 4-man rotation there, I feel great about defensive end between Taylor Wine, Danny Okoye, PJ Adebaro, Wyatt Gilmore, Kenny Ozawalu, Ozawalu. Those guys. Defensive end's got more than enough to rotate. We need 4 guys that are really able to play high-level ball to make this defense what it can be. And so I think Nigel Smith is probably the most important to the defense as we go forward. And so those are just some kind of the initial thoughts. As far as kind of camp notes, look, again, I haven't been able to talk to anybody that has any kind of super inside track on the scrimmage. I think throughout fall camp, the defense is winning more than the offense, which pretty typical of most camps. That's not crazy. And again, with the level that we believe this defense can play out, that's probably what should happen. But also don't forget, this offense is breaking in a lot of new. Okay, we just assume that they're picking right up. You got Parker Livingston, new. You got Trell Harris, new. Even guys like Elijah Thomas, who I know were here last year, but they haven't really rolled with the ones, new. Dylan McCullough is new. And so with all that, and then you add that they're adding under center game plan, that they're adding outside zone and stretch plays to the game plan, that they're adding duo to the game plan, they're adding all new tight ends to the game plan. Like right now is still, I think, very much an install. Now there's going to be some things that are bread and butter. Gabe Eichert has said this on the breakdown though. What is going to be their calling card set up? This is the play that everything works off of. And again, it's one of the things that Lincoln Riley did great when he was sorry. Didn't mean to say the name. But that GT counter. We're going to GT counter. Oh, we're going to RPO. Oh, we're going to GT counter and run it down your throat. Oh, we're going to GT counter and flare it out over here. Everything came off that GT counter. You never knew what was coming. And because of the way that they ran it with the slide and the pull, you could run the RPO because they weren't blazing a trail down the field, right? With pushing defensive linemen down the field. And yet it still created space that if they did hand it off and run, they could get out in front and now push well beyond that. Everything worked off that. They ran it out of like 9 different formations. Like they constantly worked that. What is that going to be? But again, John Mateer's learning how to play from under center. John Mateer and the running backs are having to learn. The offensive line's having to learn what it is to run an outside zone or a stretch play because all we ever ran last year was inside zone and split zone. That was like 9. That was what everything was meant to build off of. Inside zone and split zone. That is what everything was supposed to build off of, which, by the way, I hate. personally. And I agree with Teddy Lehman. Especially inside zone, you're not going anywhere. Not unless the linemen get true fire off the ball push. But even then, you're not moving. But when the ball snaps and everyone's sliding left or everyone is trying, or you're pulling guards and your linebackers now are going, where do I go? And their eyes are darting everywhere. When it's all just inside zone and push, linebackers get to just lock into their gap and be sound and hold up. And so what's that going to be? But I love the under center stuff, and I love what that could bring to the play action. I love that under center definitely lends to more just turning around and handing the ball off, where you get to just look at your alignment and go knock the freaking crap out of somebody on the other side of the ball and push them down the freaking field and get us 3 or 4 yards. Every time. I don't need you worrying about just holding your space so we can throw the RP over the top. We're not doing that. We're snapping the ball, we're turning, and we're giving it. Or we're snapping the ball, or we're faking this thing and we're throwing it over the freaking top. And so I need you to build a wall and hold. I think that helps the offensive line just as much as it helps John Mateer without having to make decisions. And so there's a lot new. So the defense winning the day does not bother me. Here's what would bother me. If we knew for a fact that John Mateer was just lighting it up with interceptions, that would terrify me. Like we heard with Jackson Arnold. Like when Jackson Arnold was becoming the starter, what we heard is there's a lot of interceptions getting thrown. And we tried to chalk it up as inexperience. And the reality is what we learned is the dude just doesn't know how to make decisions when live bullets are flying. Right? Which, by the way, shout out to my son, Tal, who called that when he was like 11 years old. Like, this dude is not any good and can't make decisions. And I was trying to defend Jackson Arnold. He got me on that one. All right. So give him his props for that. But I do think that that's going to be a big thing, though, is just them figuring all these things out and getting there. So that's kind of the biggest notes that I have. I'd say the other big note coming out is that Elijah Thomas is figuring it out. And I think that that is huge. I think that his ability to make explosive plays is huge. I think Trell Harris has the ability to make explosive plays. And so the more of those guys that you can start truly putting on the field are big. Look, I know that there's a lot of hype for Manny Choice, and I like Manny Choice. But if you're asking me kind of my evaluation of Manny Choice, he's a great possession receiver. If we need he's Keontez Lewis. You need a third down, his big body, his big frame, he's going to catch everything, and he's got a big radius. If you need to go score in the red zone, he's going to be able to do that. Is Manny Choice going to catch a slant and take it 80 yards to the house? I don't think that will ever happen. Okay? I just don't. But Trell Harris, Elijah Thomas, Jashir Rogers is going to play, and he is going to make some wow plays this year. And so hearing some of that stuff coming out of camp, I think is really big. And I love hearing that Wyatt Gilmore is starting to come on as well in this defensive end room. I think that's going to help that unit a lot. I think the last thing, just really quickly on the defensive side, is a note, and I'm sure it's been reported on. It's been done by several other people. I think Stoyo was the first one to kind of write something up about it. But the fact that Cole Sullivan learned the playbook faster than anyone that's ever come into a BV system since a lot of these guys have been here, I like that. And I think that shows that he's going to be ready to rock and roll and to play and know what to do and where to be as long as he's willing to accept his role. And so it should be really fun to watch him this season. So those are some of our just early takes, what matters, what's important, what's going to make us great, what's going to make us not great. We'll continue to move forward with some other things as we get closer, looking at the schedule, those kinds of things, which, by the way, if any of you are going to Vegas, hammer the over. I said it last year. I'll say it again. The floor is 9-3. The floor is 9-3. And here's the deal, and we'll talk about this when we get the schedule. 9-3 for this team could be that this team's better than last year's team, and they could have a worse record. That's how tough the schedule is this year. That's another thing that concerns me in a big way, is the schedule this year is much, much tougher than last year. Last year's schedule was not as tough as anybody tried to make it out to be. This year's schedule is for real. And so, again, we'll talk about that moving forward and some others. But that is all that we have. So, again, Free Pod, we're not journalists, but, man, if you like the stuff we're doing, the way that we're talking about it, putting some things together, please, please, please like, subscribe, follow, do all the things so that you can get stuff as it comes out this week. Please, guys, if you see our tweets about the pod, retweet them, repost them, like them, share them, leave comments, do all the things. We would love to do it. And some of these questions, how do you feel about it? What do you think is the most crucial thing that has to happen this year, offensive and defensively, for this team to succeed? We'd love to hear from you. Okay. We're having a great time. We hope you are too. I'm Daryl, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye, Baker.
And you can unhitch the wagon, put the ponies in the ball.